channel, guys. Primarily a video on index funds, but they are, you may have heard the word index fund and also mutual fund, or like active mutual fund, passive mutual fund, right? So, for example, let's say Axis Mutual Fund House, SBI Mutual Fund, HDFC Mutual, Nippon AMC, in context of Indian, right? The Indian context. Outside, then we have Vanguard, SP, all those AMC houses. Then India, what I named, right? So these all can have two different set of mutual. But before getting into maybe mutual fund itself, you need to understand what is mutual fund. So you have a stock, right? Let's say, for example, Reliance. Just go, you have a brokerage, go and buy it and hold it, whatever you want to do it, right? That's fine. But in a mutual fund, what happens? They will have a basket of mutual. So they have Reliance, they have Delight, just to start with, and then we'll come to the mutual fund part. So let's just search it. Mutual fund, any, just search for it. That way you know what you're talking about. Maybe just search mutual fund, maybe Axis. Take a mutual fund. So we're not here to select anything, but we'll pick just one fund. So we understand what we're talking about. So, for example, take this one, Axis Blue Chip Fund, right? So this is a fund. Fund by Axis AMC Group. But the one thing before, if you're a new beginner in the stock market, what should be the most important criteria apart from the fund selection and looking at? So since I'm here, I just want to show. So look at this one, direct and this is very important. Direct expense ratio is different than the regular expense ratio. Okay. So that's the one thing. So what happens that you directly invest with AMC itself. But now even Upstock and Zero also started giving direct mutual funds. But what happens essentially, the direct mutual fund expense ratio will be lesser. Expense ratio, you're giving your money of, let's say, 1,000 rupees, right? Let's say 1% being expense ratio. So 1% you have to give it to them as the fees of maintaining your mutual fund. That's with the high level mutual fund. I'm not yet got into the index and or XC or a passive. Now look at this, a mutual fund by Axis Blue Chip, one of the well-known funds. But what you have to look at, this is return ratio, but here we are just to know where they invested. So equity 87%, debt 0.81%, yeah, and others 11 point. Okay? You may not know everything, but that's fine. They have invested in ICICI Bank of total holding of 9%. Similarly, you see the percentage here, right? So this is one thing will be next. So what they have done? They have combined varied classes, debt, equity, and others. Once you, for example, let's say you buy a stock of Reliance today, and maybe one Pidilite today. If you combine it, there is a price to it, right? So that way they buy a lot of stock that they believe will perform, and then combine it, and they split into units just like a stock, right? And they split into unit. That's called NAV. Okay, NAV is decided end of the day. Okay, so whatever happened with those holdings, for example, in this scenario, there will be updated NAV at the end of the day based on the performance, the movement on the stock, individual stock, right? Overall, and that's how this is called, active mutual fund stock that is mostly maintained by. So the stocks will be picked by a mutual fund manager, AMC fund manager. That's one thing. Now we quickly get into index fund here. Okay. So now, as you see, right, index. What happens in this scenario? Normally, when your expense ratio is less, so these are normally they replicate the index. Really, okay. For example, with that. What is index fund, right? So if you have seen, quickly get into it. This is a Nifty Navi 50. Nifty 50 is an index by exchange itself. Okay, Nifty 50. Okay? Let me just put here Nifty 50. So Nifty 50 mutual fund. You see, these are all coming, but we don't have to get into that. Okay. Just getting back to that. This is Nifty 50. There's already a composition of certain stake. This is equity stock, right? Nifty 50. So index already have, right, this Nifty 50. So whatever there is a 50 stock compositions by exchange itself, so they don't have to do that. I mean, who? Mutual fund. They just replicate as it is. Okay, and that's called index fund. So yeah, they don't have to select a stock, right? Yeah, so that's on a high level difference between mutual fund and then index fund, right? Index fund, the index, I mean, exchange already define an index of, bucketing, right? So we just seen now, and that way they have to just invest there. So, yeah, they don't have to put a lot of brains. So in that case, what happens? The expense ratio goes down because you're just replicating what index, right? Whatever the composition is, you're just following it. That's the difference between an active and a passive. You're just lying there. You're just coming, creating a basket based on the index fund already, categorized by your exchanges. You'll have a lot of indexes there. So you can just happen. These are Nifty 50 index itself, and there is a 50 stocks, right? And within, so you can just replicate as it is. Yeah. Look at components, right? Nifty 50. This is Nifty 50. It's not a mutual fund. Nifty 50 index. Okay. Let's see what all there. Okay. These are all indexes. Okay. BSE 100. If anybody, any NMC comes, they say BSE 100 index fund. So they have to just choose these funds. Okay. Similarly, again go to Nifty 50. Yeah. See that this is the composition of Nifty 50. You don't have. They know how many could they have the weightage of this one based on the index. They will just replicate the entire stock. So if you're investing index fund, for sure these all stock bound to be part of that. That's the difference between index fund, and mutual fund, that is mostly gone by fund manager. Of course, even this could have been managed by, but that's primarily. With that, I just wanted to show you this difference and what can. So active funds are fund run by investment manager. In our case, all the AMCs who try to perform an index over time, right? So index defined by indexes, okay, such as S&P 500 in India is Nifty 500 as a index in the USA market. Passive investment are fund intended to match, not beat the performance of. So passive fund will just replicate this index. In India, it will be Nifty 50 or any other index that is a BSE 100 or mid cap 250 or whatever all the indexes. So that's basically the difference between the active and passive. Index fund in a way is a passive fund. Just replicate the component that they being listed on the index already. Yeah. With that, now get into a fund called ELSS, Equity Linked Savings Scheme. That should be the name. So here you see there are a lot of ELSS. What's the advantage of this one? That it has a lock-in period of 3 years, and then also give you a tax benefit under Section 80C if you're staying in India and you are earning some money professionally, you need to pay the tax. Two-way it gives an advantage. The third one, for people like maybe I'll include myself, right? You don't have the control over, you don't have patience, rather keep that way. You don't have a patience and you want to lock in that money, you don't want to be touched. And if you invest in something good for an LS, that way for sure you're gonna know you cannot get the money in the next 3 years, so you'll keep yourself shut that way. Yeah. Even if you that problem, LS is a handy thing to do. But other mutual funds, you can just redeem it, buy, sell, there are certain holding periods and lock-in period as well as penalties. But once we want to do it, we will do it. So now this is primarily one of the prominent side. We'll just quickly look into the LS funds as of now. So I'm just expecting to LS to an Excel sheet, and we just open the sheet here and see what we have here. Perfect. So now we have got it. Yeah. Oh, we can just delete quickly these parts. Oh, what is LS? So on primarily till I'm sorting this video, I can just quickly summarize. I'm just putting a filter here. I'll just only include the rating that has 4 or 5. By can always have not rated, but for that we can do a 4 and 5. So based on 4 and 5, this is the only fund LS that's there. Okay. So now the question would be which one to buy. If you just started in, the first thing I'll look at is look at this. The most important two things would be for you would be this expense risk. Yes, because you don't want to give too much, right? You just started in, and it's not the only criteria to look at, but then you get my point. Yeah, so you just have to look at this expense risk. Of course, return and everything we'll look at. So if you just go by the return, I just sort by largest to smallest. So Parag, Parik, Tax Saver, in 1 year it beats everyone. Okay. So if I have to just pick maybe 5 for now, I just want to sort that field. Then we'll see what else we can do that. What else? That's fine. So we picked up these 5 funds and based on return. No. If I sort it by expense ratio, that would be now smallest to is greatest, right? Now we see what's happening. We go with the expense ratio, and if I choose top 5, that list is different. Top 5, if I have to do that, would be this list, and essentially just look at that. So I'm looking at now a low expense ratio. Of course, you have to just see whether you downloaded a SIG of direct or indirect. It seems indirect, so it's fine. Direct, you just Google a bit, which are the platform that giving you direct mutual fund, not indirect. So what happens? Just to clarify again, with the direct, what happens? I think my screen is a bit problem. Okay. That sorted that out for you. So direct your a mutual fund that has issued that, let's say it HDFC mutual fund issued the as one of the fund or index fund. So that expense ratio, let's say for example 0.3. If same mutual fund you're going to buy from ICICI Direct and they are not providing you direct mutual fund, that means that will be regular. That's called regular mutual fund, and the expense ratio could be 0.4 to 0.5. So you're giving extra 0.2 to ICICI Direct, right? You don't want to do it, right? So see wherever I think off stock and you're already providing direct mutual fund, you can just go and figure that out. If you have any question for me, please let me know. I'll try to help that way. So now coming to this LS mutual fund. Okay. So based on that, it looks if you the intersection is on these the 3 fund that we can look at. Okay. Yeah. Just format a bit on this one, and these two, right? This, if you look by the expense ratio as well as the fund return, that largely looks like to be these 3 fund. Of course, you can have your own filter. I'm not saying, people say, right, I'm okay to pay 1% for the good return. That is also fine too. I mean, it's depend, which way you want to look at. Not that you have to follow me or anyone else, right? To see what is important for you. That's a one way to filter it out. Of course, now we have to get into that, the individual component of that, yeah, whether that makes sense or not. So something that's on a border, that's this one. So what I'm trying to make you understand, you can have this as a green too in case you want to. Okay. With that, another two will come into picture even, right? So some one fund that I know, but it looks like Canada. What we'll do, we'll explore Canada Robeco. That's a one fund, and then we explore and see what are the component of that. So Canada Robeco, I can do that here also. I can do that. So yeah, I got it. Canada Robeco tax favor direct plan. Okay. Already I had it. Fine. Now we have to what you do. We do have to see does it do, right? Let me just open a bit. So they have a high rating that we already know. And what is the expenses you're getting there? Canada was 0.61. It looks quite good to me based on these two. Look at the 10-year return. Okay. Return details is one part, but you want to look at the risk details. Okay? What are the risk details you're looking at? This is a fund, the mean return is 19%. Standard deviation 2%. Sharp ratio is 0.78 and Sortino is 0.87. Okay? Beta is okay, that makes sense. Alpha is 3.62. Okay. So this ratio you can go and read it, but normally Sharp and Sortino, just to give you a high level, if more is good, okay, that's keep in mind. So now with that, we'll do Parik tax saver fund. Again, we go to the same say. So we know we are not. Okay, what we'll do now, we'll just search again on that one and see how does it look like. Okay. Parik. Again, go to the risk details, and here the Sharp ratio again is quite good, and Sortino on 1.1. So it looks with the alpha of 9. Alpha is something, how do I, let me put that. Times of return, you get more than the benchmark. Keep that in mind. That's on a high level times alpha. So risk you are taking, right? Based on the risk you are taking, how much making 1.06, 1 point, and then it was less than 1 for Canada Robeco. So that way, if you just compare these two funds, then Parag Parik looks to be the better bet in just on. So what I'm trying to make you understand, you have to also look at expense ratio too. So now with that, if I have to choose between Canada Robeco with 0.61 and then Parag Parik 0.81, I might choose Parag Parik. Okay? So not only on the expense ratio, also so on that piece, you also want to might have a look at the composition of the fund that they have. So how do you do that? Portfolio, look at allocation. 81 point equity and then 18 debt, and what are all the funds? Housing Development, Bajaj Holding, ICC Bank. Do you even you feel based on your understanding? Of course, at the beginner you won't know, but I'm just saying, you if you don't know, you ask someone whether you feel this top 10 fund is, because essentially you have to look at how much percentage they have, percent of asset. That's what. So nearly how much is coming, the percentage on the entire weightage, right? So that way, one way to look at. Again, go to Canada Robeco, right, and again explore that portfolio. So it's equity 90. It looks to be so that looks more balanced, right? If you know a date, right? Date is some example would be bond, right? Equity is a completely share market. So now we look across and then you see the composition. Looks certain companies still even in here, right? But you have to compare. If you ask me again, this beats even on the portfolio level. It beats completely. I mean, beats as in looks like Alpha is greater, Sortino is greater, right? Sharp ratio is greater when Alpha is greater. So that way, this looks to be a better bet LS, right? Of course, similarly, we can go to any other fund that Mirage asset maybe. Yeah, let's see what happens. That topped at least in some way, but let's see what happened. Mirage Express. I mean, is this too much different? What will do? Return, you can always just toggle it between 5 years. You can compute the return. You can also compare the return, but then on the risk level again, Sharp ratio is bit less, nearly probably less than even Canada Robeco, right? Alpha is 2, even that's somehow nearly related to. But what is the composition? Again, it looks like more of a Canada Robeco one, right? So that's how you're gonna look at that, and hope this was useful. This is in any way not a recommendation to buy and sell. There's a way to look at that. You might point me, if I missed out something, and I love to get in that piece. That's on a high level. How do you get into mutual fund? But the market being down in a downturn, and people are want to invest in mutual fund, and they need some sort of input. So that's the way to do. You can pick a small cap, similarly a mid cap, maybe all those funds, and drill down a bit. Look at the expenses. Look at the return. Look at the portfolio composition. Look at the diversification across equity, debt, and any other. So, with that perspective, hope this helps. Thank you for being here.